Well, I'm out doing a little bit of late evening scouting, just looking for deer and waiting for them to come out into the field. But I've got a new pair of Alpine Teton binoculars. You know, a lot of times people will ask me, what binoculars are best in low light situations? Well, that's simple. The answer is the Alpine Teton binoculars. And the reason for that is they have the Abbey Koenig prism, which simply means it allows 94% of available light to get through these binoculars, making them an excellent pair of binoculars in low light. So if you're looking for a pair of binoculars that will see detail into a dark timber right now, this time of the evening, make sure you check out the Alpine Teton binoculars. You'll be glad you did. Oh, here's some deer coming out right now. All right, this time we're gonna show you how to sight in the Alpine Apex scope. Now Ryan's got his AR-10 and he's got the Alpine Apex 4.5 by 27. Now he also has the sunshade and the honeycomb on it, and it comes with the scope. And what it does is it filters out all this sunlight that we're dealing with here today. So again, your gun would already be bore sighted like this one is. Take the first shot and then we'll show you how to make the adjustments after that shot. All right, so as I said, the next step was to bring the crosshairs down to the bullet. But before we do that, we're gonna take the caps off and we're gonna pull the turrets off, okay? And there's 3 set screws in there that we're gonna loosen up. We're gonna go ahead and make those adjustments, get everything sighted in, and when we finalize the sight in, we're gonna tighten those set screws, put the turret back so we have a 0 position on it, and then we'll put the caps back on and we're good to go. The next step now is Ryan's gonna hold the bullseye on the red dot, and I'm gonna make adjustments to bring the crosshairs down and over to the bullet. And that's what we're gonna do right now. Pretty close, aren't we?
Yeah, just hair to the
right. I gotta go to the left. It's gotta go left, right? Or not? Yeah, I gotta go to the left. Are you on?
Yep.
Okay, so I think this is right.
Good.
And I gotta go down just a little.
Yeah. Other way.
Other way.
Just the side of that red, but I pulled.
So we can pretty much assume that we're on, you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's in the red.
All right, that's all it takes. 3 shots, and we're in the red. Hi, I'm Rick White with Alpine Optics, and I want to talk to you today about the new Alpine Shasta Ridge binoculars. Now they're lighter than the older Shasta Ridges, new sleek design, fog-proof, waterproof, BAK4 prisms, phase-coated, and the lenses are multi-coated. Inexpensive pair of binoculars with great quality. So if you're looking to save a little money, but still put quality in your backpack, make sure you check out the Alpine Shasta Ridge binoculars.
2, 1.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of On the Hunt with Alpine Optics. I'm your host, Rick White, on a beautiful afternoon here in Iowa. My guest tonight comes all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, Mr. Wayne Shaw, and another great weekly special at the end of the show. So stick around. We'll be back in about 30 seconds. And welcome back. Again, you're watching On the Hunt with Alpine Optics. And I don't know what everybody's got going on, but it's a beautiful day here in, I guess, east central Iowa, where I'm sitting. Paul, who's running the whole show, he's sitting in an office in Arkansas. So, I'm glad I'm sitting here. But our guest tonight comes from Atlanta, Georgia, fellow pro staff member and good friend Wayne Shaw. Wayne, how you doing?
Doing good, Rick.
So it's been I don't know, maybe a month and a half since you've been on. Just touch a little, give the folks a little bit of info about yourself.
Well, I was raised in Perry, Florida, in the northern part of the state, and went to high school there. Went to the University of Florida, graduated from there in 1969. Got married. Coached some ball in school there for 2 or 3 years. Got drafted into the Vietnam War period, and came out of there and started a different vocation altogether than what I was doing. And eventually ran into you down the road, and we did some work, did some videoing and work like that in this industry. And we started turkey hunting and deer hunting together. And it just escalated from there, and going to shows and doing demonstrations and, seminars and things of that nature. And we're still doing that sort of thing now.
Tell the folks, I find this kind of a neat story. You talked about getting drafted into the Vietnam War. I always enjoyed listening to this story about how the draft went. Tell the folks a little bit about how the draft went in your county.
Well, back in the day when they had the draft, they put every birth date in every date, 1/365, they put them in a hat and they drew them out. Drew numbers out, and if your whatever your birthday was when it came out of that hat, that's you. That was about what was going to happen to you in the draft. October the 18th was my birthday, and it was the number 5 draw out of the hat. And whenever I got that, I thought, well, gosh, there's a lot of birthdays in these 4 days ahead of me, because I wasn't looking forward to going to Vietnam. I can tell you that right now. And but I didn't take off and go anywhere. I stayed there in my hometown. But in my hometown, the draft quota was 1, and the only birthday that came up as number 1 was October the 18th. So I knew I was gone. It's the only thing I ever won.
Oh boy! Well, yeah, what an experience, anyways.
What college did you go to?
Say again, Paul.
Where'd you go to school at?
Where'd you go to college, Wayne?
University of Florida in Gainesville, Florida.
The Gator?
Florida Gator. I played basketball there in the 60s.
Blue Chips? No, not that. That was North.
Did they have round basketballs in the 60s or?
Yeah, about like your head.
Well, listen, I'm actually, as you know, I'm actually heading down to Georgia not this weekend, but next weekend is the opening day of muzzleloader season in Georgia. Now, I've never deer hunted in the state of Georgia. I go down turkey hunting every year, but I'm actually going down deer hunting this year. Tell me what can I look forward to, and what maybe do I not want to look forward to? And
can you spell mosquitoes?
I spell it Thermacell, THER.
Yeah, and that makes 2 that you need to have with you, not 1. So you're gonna have mosquitoes, trust me.
So when here in Arkansas, whenever the duck season's not open, we practice on the mosquitoes because they're about the same size.
Yeah. Well, the ones down in Georgia are not that big, but you can put a saddle on them. And but you're gonna have some mosquitoes, bugs to deal with. So you better spray down, and you better have your Thermacell. Now you're also gonna have to deal with some warm weather. Warm weather is not just around the corner in Georgia, even though we're getting ready to be into October.
You mean cool weather? Cool weather.
You're you're gonna have that going on, and then you're gonna have to hunt the food sources for sure. You got to have, if you got some cover and some fields that's got crops in them, then those are the places you're going to have to concentrate on.
Now, I've been told that they're getting ready to, and I don't know exactly how this works, but they're getting ready to dig up the peanuts. And then according to what I've been told is the peanuts then will have to lay on top of the ground. There's a drying process. And I will be hunting down there when the peanuts are actually sitting on the ground, which is a really good thing. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a good and a bad thing. If they're lying there of 24/7, the deer can eat and be done in a matter of minutes. And so you got to look I would look for the charts, the tables to tell me when the feed periods are. And I try to stick to those. I don't care if they're in the middle of the day. I think you should, concentrate on that, because if it's a moonlit night, they can get up and eat all night if they want. So I'd say watch the tables for feed periods.
What's your thoughts early in the season like this, morning versus evenings? Are they both good? Or, I'm typically here in Iowa. If I hunt early season, I'm typically hunting evenings only.
Yeah.
Can it be good in the mornings down there that time of year as well? Or?
Oh yeah, I think so. Especially if there's a feed period at daylight, Rick, I would say be there. And then, and you can take that heat out of it by staying in air conditioning during the middle of the day. Yeah. That's what I do. If you can't hunt all day, for so many days, you get worn out. So I'd look for those feed periods close to the evening and the morning.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. And I know that they've been seeing a lot of hogs, and I think the dove season is open. And if the water, I think they've had a little bit of rain, but if the water goes down, we're gonna get on the river and set some bush hooks and do some of that stuff. So hopefully, kind of reminds me of turkey season. We're just deer hunting instead. So
yeah, that's right.
So we were going to talk a little bit tonight about kind of the evolution of box calls. I mean, you know box calls is about as good as anybody I know, and you've got quite the collection as well. But talk a little bit about some of the early time box calls, and really, quite honestly, some of those early box calls sound just as good as what they're making today, and maybe even better in some situations.
Yeah, the evolution of the box call is, of course, the Native Americans, they used wing bones and a lot of different things. I don't know if they made any box calls or not, but I've got one right here. That's the very first one that was patented in the United States. Can you see that okay?
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
This box call is called a Gibson Box Call, that was patented on January the 5th of 1892. And it was sold by Simmons Hardware Company as the sole agents of this box call out of St. Louis, Missouri. And it is a
hold it up a little higher.
Yeah. And if you can see it, it's got two edges. So it was made so that you could yelp on either side of the box. And it's kind of a high box. The thickness of it through here has been reduced somewhat over the years. And in the very bottom, there's a hole right here that you can see. That's where a turkey hunter would put a little piece of chalk in there, and then he'd take a cork and stick it in there tighten that up so that if he needed to put some chalk on the lid of this is what's called the lid, this piece right here, and he would be able to put some chalk on there to get the friction that he needed to make that yelp. So this was the very first one that came out in 1892 right here, and I'm fortunate enough to have collected one of them in my collection.
Wayne, one of my very first box call that I ever owned was a Lynch Box Call, and I know you've got a bunch of Lynch Box Calls, but you have some to share, I think, don't you?
Yeah, I do. This is called this is one that I started with right here in 70. This was my 59th season. This past year was my 59th season. And I started when I was 15 years old with this box call right here. And it's a Lynch 101, which has you only yelp on one side of it. This right here, it's not a double edge, it's just a single edge. And then it has a stop where when you pull the handle over to it, it will stop right there and you can't go any further. So it was a single edge box call. That was the first one I ever had. And it was made in the first Lynch was made in Birmingham, Alabama, and then they moved to Liberty, Mississippi, and this particular box call was made in Liberty, Mississippi, and it hasn't changed at all, except it moved to Thomasville, Georgia, and the Lynch box calls are made in Thomasville now. And this is another example of a short. These are called short box calls because they're pretty short and handy and easy. And this particular one here also has a double edge on it, just like the very first one ever made. You can yelp on either side of this box call. Now, this is a custom made box call right here. And but it has a great sound, and I collect these, and then sometimes they will have paintings and things of that nature on them. These box calls of this nature right here, and they're great collector items. And I've been turkey hunting all these years, and I never collected anything, but I decided to start collecting them and gained quite a large collection over the last 4 years. This is an example of a double edge box call. Now it's bigger and longer than this others that I've showed you. And this is called a boat paddle, but it's also called a long box. And most of them you'll find will have two edges that you yelp on. And when you find one, you want to make sure that you don't break out in a sweat trying to make a turkey sound. It should run itself. All you do is provide the power.
Now,
And
what's the difference? What's the difference between the short ones and the long ones? Why did they feel that they needed a long one versus the short one and the tall one versus the half?
You can reach out there and touch someone with this long one. Okay,
it's louder.
It's louder. It'll get way out, and and a lot of people use them just to locate a turkey sometimes. And but it's got the you want to have a box call that will yelp on both sides. If it's a double edge, you want to make sure that it'll yelp on both sides. If it's not, keep searching until you find one that both sides yelp for you.
So if you have the longer one, you want to switch to a shorter one when they get in closer?
Yeah, but you have to be careful how much movement that you make, and you have to either long or short box. And if you can, you want to try to finish a turkey off probably with a mouth call or a pot call that you're holding down real low, but because you want to limit that movement of your hands. And when that turkey starts getting in 50 yards or so, you got to be covered up pretty good. You don't want any hand movement getting you caught.
The other thing too, Wayne, and you know this as well as anybody, the difference between different calls, regardless of what type of call they are, is a different sounding turkey. So sometimes going out into the woods, a loud call may get a turkey to gobble, or a soft call may get a turkey to gobble, but you throw kind of some different sounds at them. Some of those boat paddles are typically a little higher pitch sometimes than some of the others, depending on the wood grain and stuff. But
exactly.
You kind of take their temperature, and whatever they're responding to the best is what you're going to use to call them in. And one day it's a boat paddle, and the next day it's a short box. So
and Rick, I'll tell you on that subject, I've done a lot of seminars, and I had one person one time, and he was a mouth call person, and he said, well, I like raspy with a mouth call. I said, that's fine. He said, and you've been using mostly high-end stuff, high-pitch stuff. I said, well, I didn't do that intentionally. I said, but let me say it to you this way, and I don't want to hurt your feelings. When you're trying to get that turkey to gobble, you got to figure out what it is he likes. It's not what you like as a turkey caller. You may love the high and shrill call, or you may like the raspy call. But if that's not what that turkey's wanting to hear, you're not going to take him home with you. So you have to be a little versatile in a box, a pot call and a mouth call. You don't have to be a pro, but you have to make a sound that finding what he likes.
You know, we hunted together this past spring, and I had a box call that you didn't really much care for. I still can't figure out why, but
yeah, we Rick got that at a NWTF convention in Nashville, Tennessee.
Sam Pope from Chattahoochee Game Call.
Yeah, that's right. And it sounded good. I mean, it was real good. And Rick said, "Here, try this." And I started running it, and I thought, God, I hate to hurt Rick's feelings, but this is the sorest sounding thing I've ever heard in my life. And he said, "Look, let me have that thing."
I said, "What are you doing with that? Give me that."
Give me that. He started running it. And all of a sudden he said, half of my handle's missing. And just about that much of his handle had broken off. And he still had some handle left on the paddle, but it absolutely changed that whole sound on that box call. It was unreal, wasn't it?
Oh, it absolutely was. Hey, let me give a quick shout out. I see some of the folks that are on tonight, and I always like to every once in a while mention them. Stanley Tanner, Brian Caston, Steve Herndon's on there. Hey, Steve. Ron Toth, Ron's on there. Edwin Schertz, Jordan Dean's on there. Phil Smith's on there. So we've got a pretty decent crowd. So thanks, guys, for watching. Wayne, you know, we've been turkey hunting for quite a few years, and I've shot a lot of turkeys with a gun and a bow, and probably the turkeys I've shot with a gun, I'm going to say 95% of them have been with a 12 gauge, and that's kind of what I like to hunt with. And I've got some 20 gauge turkey guns. I don't know. I like a 12 gauge. That's what I like. But you have been shooting something a little different the last year. And we wanted to talk a little bit about that tonight.
Okay. Well, I shot the very first time I shot a 3.5-inch Magnum. I handed that instrument over to my son-in-law and said, "Here's your Christmas present." And I started working my way down on these gauges back to my 3-inch Magnum. Then I went from a 12 gauge to a 20 gauge, and with custom choke tubes in it. And I hunted with that for 25 years. And then 2 years ago, I went to the 410. And what revolutionized the 410 was TSS shot. When this TSS shot came out, it's heavier than heavy shot, and the density of number 9s carries a kinetic energy that will penetrate like you wouldn't believe, and it is a devastating up to about 40 yards, and it's lightweight. And I was able to take my wife, who was left eye dominant. She had no particular where to shoot, left or right-handed, and she could handle that 410, and she could keep her left eye open and shoot it. And it changed, and she loves turkey hunting now after just 3 seasons. But the first season was with a 20. This also opens up the door for youngsters who have trouble with the weight of the 20 gauge and on up. And also it helps them with the recoil. The recoil is nothing on these 410s. And a lot of kids are probably, and women too, are getting introduced to these big gauge shotguns, and they kicking the daylights out of them, and they're turned off by it. So, and the last 2 seasons I've used the 410, and I love it. But I'm not promoting any particular company or anything, but what I'm saying is it's to be reckoned with out in the public, in the hunting fields now. And it's a great way to introduce beginners to turkey hunting.
I think you're using a Indian Creek choke tube. Is that correct? Or
I am, yes.
Yeah, that's a great choke tube. If anybody out there is looking for,
they had 5,000 orders. They had 5,000 ordered at the beginning of the season and sold out in about a week for 410s. But they make the 410 choke in an Indian Creek.
Right. So I wanted to share this with you. I think for dinner tonight, we're having walleye. Have you ever eaten walleye before? Fish?
Yeah, once. I was in the great state of Iowa, where you were from. We were deer hunting on the same hunting together on a farm, and there were about 12 of us there. And whenever you opened up the walleye that you brought for everyone, let's put it this way, it was the Last Supper. And so I told most of the guys I was cooking, and I said, you guys line up now and get a piece of bread, because I'm going to rub this walleye across it. And that's all you're going to get is the taste, because Rick's brought one piece of fish for 12 of us. So my portion that I stole off of the fish was about the size of a 50-cent piece. Okay, so I can say I've tasted walleye. I have never eaten walleye. Okay, and I want to thank you very much for that.
Yeah. So no, but talking in all seriousness, what? Because you used to work in a fish market.
I was raised in one.
In your opinion, and there's probably several, but what is, in your opinion, one of the best eating saltwater fish or fish? Because you're from Florida. What's the best eating fish in your opinion?
There's no question in my mind that it's a mullet.
Oh, there we go again. I forgot about that.
Okay. If I had one fish, I was raised in a fish market. That's how we made our living. If I had one fish, and it's got to be a mullet from the Gulf Coast, okay, I would have that. The next one would be red snapper. But if I had one that I had to live with the rest of my life, it'd be a mullet. You can fix it so many ways. And it has to be fresh. And as long as his eyes are clear, he's fresh.
I got
if you got him in a fish case.
Hey, Wayne. So
yes,
someone here, Edwin Shirts mentioned that the put a recoil protection on a hunter's shoulder for a 20 gauge. But that's where most of those 410s now, especially the new ones, they have those pads in the back. I think you still have that laying around. You could show the stock of that.
I can have it in just a minute. I'd have to go down to my safe to get it.
No, don't worry about it.
Okay. No,
I just knew it was there yesterday, so I wasn't sure if you still had it with you.
Yeah, it has a little rubber recoil pad, and it also has 2 places that you can hook a sling on the stock and up under the forearm and carry it with a sling as well.
I would say that the recoil on those 410s are not even right, just a little bit more than a 22 almost. It's depending on the load.
It's not bad at all. My wife, that doesn't even bother her, and she's like 100-pounder, and she doesn't. I mean, she loves it. She absolutely loves it. And the recoil's nothing.
Well, Rick, I guess we're at the time of the show that questions are over, and it's time for what?
We got a weekly special. And plain and simple, another weekly special, and as always, another great weekly special. And since we're talking turkey, this would be an ideal addition to your turkey gun. But I think it would be a great addition for other types of hunting, like squirrel season. maybe some rabbit hunting, or possibly even on your deer gun. But here is the weekly special. So it's the Bresser Omni 2 Red Dot Scope. Okay. It's the model 23-2100, 20100. Fast target acquisition, adjustable red dot, 5-year warranty on this, and great for use on shotguns, rifles, and pistols. A lot of people putting them on their pistols nowadays, but it's a great option for all those guns. The special normal price is $139.99, 50% off this week through Sunday. On the hunt special, $70. So half price, $70. The Omni 2 Red Dot. It's really a good scope, and I love a red dot on my turkey guns. I mean, I have several of them on my turkey guns. All you need to do is go to bresserusa.com or alpine.com, and when you go ahead and order that, just in the promo code, just type in "on the hunt" with no spacing, and you'll get the 50% off through Sunday at midnight. So again, the Bresser Omni 2 Red Dot. I think Paul's putting one up on the screen.
Yeah.
And again, it works great on your shotgun, but it can also be used on your rifle or a handgun. So, and again, I love them on my turkey guns. And I know, Wayne, you've used a red dot a time or two on some of your turkey guns over the years. But you like that bead. I know you're that bead guy. You like to line them up.
I know I do, but I recommend this scope highly that you're talking about, Rick. We both work for them at the NWTF show, and I have 3 of them, and they're fabulous. I mean, but my eyesight I'm 75 years old, and my eyesight is giving me some trouble. My hearing's giving me some trouble, but this red dot has basically revived me, and it's helping me with my turkey hunting a great deal, and I have to have it.
Yep. So yeah, again, regular price $139.99, 50% off is the special price, which brings it down to $70. It's the model 23-20100, the Bresser Omni 2 Red Dot Scope. So if you're in the market for something new, or just you need another red dot, now's the time to get it, because you're not going to get it any cheaper. So Wayne, what do you got going on the next few days? I mean, till I come in, anything?
Well, just same old with me, Rick. I'm a real estate appraiser, and I'm trying to turn this business over to my granddaughter so I can have more time, to do things I like instead of just working all the time. But I'm getting there, and then I'll see you next Thursday, and before you head on down to do your hunt in Georgia.
I got you. All right. Well, listen, I certainly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on with us. Next week's guest, Miss Brenda Valentine, will be back, and we had to reschedule her due to some family things that came up, but she will be on next week. So anxious to talk with her. Wayne, thanks again. We appreciate it. Folks, thank you guys for coming along. Another great show, and this half hour went pretty fast, but don't forget to join us next week on the hunt with Alpine Optics, Wednesday, 6 to 6:30 Central Time. For now, I'm Rick White. Good night, everybody. Good optics are a must for a hunter, particularly binoculars, not only during hunting season, but times like this when it's time to start scouting. But there's one thing you need to do when you get your binoculars that a lot of people don't realize. You need to set them up for yourself. Everybody's eyes are a little bit different. And here's how I do it. It's simple and easy. Just take the binoculars and just kind of grab good focus on an object. And I go and put my hand over the left lens. The diopter ring, which is on the right side, I will go ahead and adjust that until that right eye is in focus. Once it is, I take the hand off the other side, both eyes in focus, and you're ready to go. It's simple and easy, and it's a must that you do this before you go out and use them. Well, I'm out doing a little bit of late evening scouting, just looking for deer and waiting for them to come out into the field. But I've got a new pair of Alpine Teton binoculars. You know, a lot of times people will ask me, what binoculars are best in low light situations? Well, that's simple. The answer is the Alpine Teton binoculars. And the reason for that is they have the Abbey Koenig prism, which simply means it allows 94% of available light to get through these binoculars, making them an excellent pair of binoculars in low light. So if you're looking for a pair of binoculars that will see detail into a dark timber right now, this time of the evening, make sure you check out the Alpine Teton binoculars. You'll be glad you did. Oh, here's some deer coming out right now.